ahead.
Okay, so let's continue on with the story. So basically, Joseph lies in state in the mansion house. My understanding was there's over 5 or 6,000 people that
Probably
came
more than that.
through.
So
And it was just a
Emma's family.
continuous thing day and night, and Emma
Oh yeah.
was just
Well,
like,
here's the thing. Emma's family saw him
yeah,
the night that they came back. So that was the 28th. The funeral was the 29th, which
yeah,
was the very next day. So on the next day is when that would have been a Saturday.
hmm
Okay, and everybody was lined up for
yeah,
long
all down the
lines outside,
streets, yeah,
and they would walk in the front door of the mansion house, and if you go there today, the church owns it now,
yeah,
Yeah.
so go there today, they'll walk you through
yeah.
the funeral procession lane.
There's a
Okay,
parlor.
yeah.
There's kind of
So
two parlors when you first
so
walk
there was
in.
two
One on the
parlors.
left and
There's
one on the
one
right.
on there. Yeah, there's one on the south side, and then there's another one on the
The
north
north
side.
side.
The north side's the big room
Yeah.
that had Joseph greeted all his guests in,
Yeah.
and that's where the
Yeah.
so the bodies were there in the parlor. So they'd walk through the parlor and out the back door of the parlor, and then out the back of the south of the house.
Yeah.
And it was ugly. It's not going and visiting a few. It's not an open casket like you see today. Okay, it's just they had them in caskets. Their faces were covered with glass. They had a glass thing over their face. But people that described it said that blood was still dripping on the floor. They were burning tar and sugar in the fireplace to get the smell out because
Yeah,
there's no embalming.
Yep.
But because their faces had ice around them and all that, they were pretty well preserved.
yeah.
But people said by the end of the day, so this was like a 7-8 hour
Long
deal.
Yeah.
Okay, about 5 o'clock, they closed the doors and they said that we're done. The smell was too bad and it was horrible. They said that Hyram, who had been shot in the face, his face was black and swollen by the end of the day.
Yeah.
But Joseph's face was pretty well
because
preserved.
It's just like if anybody, like David Hawking, when I probably shouldn't have said that, but he took a fall about a year and a half or so ago, just hit his head on the counter on the way down, and his whole face went
His
purple.
black. Well, imagine this. This is a
Unbelievable.
bullet that passed right through his
all that
jawbones and
blood is gonna
everything.
go all over.
And all of those bones. I'm an anatomist at Snow College. That's what I do. I work on cadavers every day.
Yeah.
Okay, but I know this. I know all the bones, and there's lots of little tiny bones, especially near the nose. Yeah, there's 10 bones right there.
Yeah.
And
And
muscles.
they're all just sutured together. The body over time has sutured them together.
Yeah.
And if you put a bullet through there, the only thing that's going to hold all that together is just the tissue.
Yeah.
Okay, but after the tissue is gone, the whole face just falls in. And so we can talk about that later, but when they dug the graves up, they literally found that Hiram's face, and we have the skulls. I'm sorry to say this, people, but a little gruesome. Yes, we took pictures of, not us, but the Community of Christ.
Have them.
They're buried now
But
they took them over to the mansion house after they dug them up on the river, and they actually took photos of the skulls of Joseph and Hyram. And if you look at Hiram's skull, the whole front is gone.
Yeah.
Because when those tissues were gone, the whole thing sunk in.
You have just the mandible, basically.
Yeah,
It's about
that's
all
it.
that's left.
And the eye, and the eyesall, and the orbits of the eye.
Yeah.
That's it. But Joseph's face is completely preserved. And you know how they could tell? The Community of Christ made a mistake. All they would have to done is go back to the history. We remember when Joseph was tarred and feathered in Hyrum, Ohio,
Yeah.
at the Johnson home.
Yep.
They broke a tooth out, and he never got it repaired. So he always had a whistle. When Joseph would talk loud,
It would whistle
they
through.
didn't have microphones like these. Okay,
Yeah.
he had to holler his talks, and they were all outside. There were no church buildings in Nauvoo. Everything they said was outside. Okay, and so he would when he would get to loud voice. To holler to everybody out there several hundred feet away, he would have a whistle in his voice. And
was it a bottom tooth? Do you remember?
It was a bottom tooth.
Bottom
tooth on the left hand side.
Yeah.
And you could see it
in the
on.
photographs.
Yeah, you could see it on the photograph. But the Community of Christ could have just identified Joseph that way, but they got him mixed up.
Well, now you mentioned another way, which kind of is interesting because Joseph. This is the first time I actually even just realized that Joseph had gone through that operation when he was a child, when he was 8 years old.
Yeah, he had osteomyelitis.
Yeah, and they removed part of the bone and so forth. So that would have been a little bit different in his.
It would have showed up well too.
Is it the tibia or fibula?
The tibia.
The tibia.
Yeah.
The tibia that was in.
Yeah.
So that would have showed up. For the first time, I actually realized why it was that Joseph made the comment when they found the bones of Zelph.
Mm-hmm.
and he said that this guy's thigh bone had been broken and it had not healed properly.
Right. But let me tell you
I
something
thought
about that.
Joseph was probably aware of that because he probably,
He walked with a limp.
yeah, his leg had to heal, and so he was keenly aware of somebody who's
Mhm.
sees their bone and says, this it didn't heal properly.
Yeah. Joseph walked. Joseph had a leg that was a little shorter than the other.
Yeah,
Okay. This is
just
very common.
just a
This is
little
why
bit of a
people wear
limp.
heel lifts on the bottom of their shoes. But
Yeah.
he walked with it, and they didn't have heel lifts back then. They were
Yeah.
all made the same. But interesting enough, Porter Rockwell and Joseph both had a limp. So they would lock arms and they would limp down the street together. That's a true story. Okay. But anyway, but if you look at a tibia that's healed, and I've seen lots of tibias that have
Yeah.
healed, even from the same thing that he suffered, which was osteomyelitis, which is bacterial infection of the bone.
Yeah.
But if you look at that, it heals so well you can hardly tell.
Right.
Really. So they
You
would have
can
had a hard time.
It wouldn't have been
seeing
like,
that.
oh, look at that. There are big holes in his tibia. No, it would have been totally healed over. And it would have been the only thing you were really be able to tell us
Plus he was a kid at the time.
is he limped.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a growing kid. He was 14, 10 to 14, and it's totally healed by the time you're 20.
Would that have slowed down the growth of the bone? Maybe.
Yeah,
because his
and
legs
that's
would
the
not be
thing
as long?
that's the thing that happens. It slows, and people that do that today, if they break the tibia during their growth spurt period, which
Yeah.
Joseph was in,
Yeah.
then the body's has to send all its energy to repair the bone, and it's not growing the same speed as the other one.
Yeah.
So you end up with a slight shorter leg.
Yeah.
It was probably a quarter inch, something small, half inch long maybe.
That's enough to set your,
Enough
set
enough
your
to
hips
notice that when
off.
someone's walking, they're just not quite. And
Yeah.
everybody knew that about
Yeah.
Joseph,
Yeah.
But anyway.
Okay. So we got to cut. We got still a few more things to cover here. This is
I know,
so fascinating. Oh my gosh.
I hope you're enjoying this. We
Yeah,
are.
In fact, maybe this would be a good time to take just a half a break and say, listen, if you're enjoying this, and if you're into this as I am, and Brill is, and so
Yeah.
forth, hit the subscribe button and be able to know when we have additional things coming out. But this is just fascinating. Okay, so
So the funeral's the
so we got
29th.
the funeral.
The funeral's the 29th, 5 o'clock shuts down. Okay, now there's still a bounty out for Joseph's head, which
Yes.
proves the point about William Daniel's story.
Somebody would have to be really
Okay.
bold to try to come
Well,
into Nauvoo and
We have
Yeah.
we have people all over Nauvoo at this
There's
time. There could have been
crazies
in the
out
crowd. There could have
There's
been part of the
crazies.
mob in
Yeah.
the line. Who knows?
$5,000 is
right?
$5,000 back then.
So
Yeah.
so they close it at 5, and Emma says, "Okay, this is what we're going to do." And this was really Huntington's, William Huntington's, who was a good friend of Prophet's. He was part of the
But
coroner.
I also, at this point in time, a more proper set of coffins had been prepared.
Yes. Yeah, the really nice oak coffins had
Yeah.
been prepared. Okay, and he's actually so what they're and so when you go in, when they had the procession going through, there was the pine boxes.
Yes.
Okay, that were made in Hamilton.
Yeah.
Okay, made from Hamilton, pine boxes, and then they had the oak boxes inside. Okay, so the oak boxes
inside
that were
the
later
pine
made
boxes.
after he got back, that they'd actually laid Joseph in, that were made in Nauvoo now, were set inside the pine box.
Okay.
So there were two.
I didn't realize they were
Two
inside
coffins,
it
yeah, one was inside the
because
other.
the ones were so much bigger, I guess.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
pine boxes
exactly.
were.
They had lots of space.
Which is part of the reason, I guess, why they took up the whole back of the wagon for two guys.
Exactly. That's exactly. So actually, when they came out, there was a body in each wagon.
Oh,
So
they
Hamilton
two
had a
different
wagon,
wagons.
and then his brother Samuel, who brought a wagon, the Third Martyr that we all talk about.
Yeah.
Story for another day.
Yeah.
He had a wagon. So
Yeah.
there are two wagons, one body in each
Yeah.
wagon.
Lucy Mack Smith lost 3 sons.
Yeah, she lost Samuel
that
30
time
days
frame.
later
Yep.
because he had chased a horse trying to save Joseph's life.
Yeah.
The mob chased him for 2.5 hours inside of the outer tree line because they had a picket line around set up. The mob did. That's the last thing they needed was another Smith in town, right?
Yeah.
But one chapter of my book in here
Talks about that.
is called The Third Martyr. And I cover the whole story.
This is like a lamb to the slaughter.
Yeah,
This
that's
is your
my-
book,
that's my
Revisiting
book.
the Martyrdom of Prophet Joseph Smith by Craig R. What does R stand for?
Roy.
Oh, it's not
My,
Rod.
my,
Oh,
my
bummer.
father's name. My father's name is Roy.
Done. Okay, there we go.
So, but anyway, there's a whole chapter I devote in here just to Samuel's
Yeah.
story.
We're going to see if we can get some copies of that. So if you want to get a copy of that, you can just go on our bookstore and do that. Hopefully, we
Yeah, you
talk
can,
to
and you can get it
your
right now. It's
publisher.
eBorn,
Yeah.
EBOR, eBornbooks.com. Or
Yeah.
if you're in Nauvoo, They're stacked up against the ceiling in the bookstore back there. Okay, because I'm going back there to do the tours.
That's right. That's right.
So anyway,
Okay, so now we got down to the point where we have
they got to hide Joseph's body.
yeah.
They have to hide it because everybody knows that
Yeah.
there's still a $5,000 reward. So this is what Emma has Dimmick Huntington to do. So she says, what we're going to do is we're going to have a mock trial. So the next day they're going to, or not a mock trial, a mock burial, a mock funeral.
Yeah.
Over in the old city cemetery that's up on the top there. Yeah, we're going to have a mock funeral, and W.W. Phelps is going to give the eulogy. So they planned all this out, just like we do a normal funeral.
Yeah.
Okay, both for Hyram. So, but she says, what we're going to do tonight is we'll wait till it gets dark. Everybody's asleep, 2:00 in the morning.
Take them down.
They take the nice boxes out of the pine boxes. Okay, so they take the nice oak boxes out, and they walk them across. She has a couple of guys. One of them was a black man who worked for Emma at the house. They hauled them out across to the Nauvoo house, which was a hotel was being built straight to the south of the
still under
mansion house.
construction.
Yeah, it was still under construction.
They had no roof or anything. It was just the
there was no rooms or anything. It was going to be the big, beautiful. It's spoken about in section 142, I think, of the Doctrine and Covenants. And people were buying stock in this place, and but it all stopped at the Martyrdom because then Brigham Young had to shift all of the money to help finish the temple, right? Yeah. So it was going to be Joseph's dream of all the people come to visit Nauvoo, stay in this beautiful hotel. So they took it over across the street, and they dug it in the basement that was still dirt, and they buried him down in the basement of the Nauvoo house.
In the nice,
in the hotel,
the nice oak.
Yeah, in the nice oak yes, and now they did put some rugs and things over the top.
Yeah.
Okay, they didn't have cement vaults back then, so they buried him under there, and then they swished the dirt so nobody would know. And then, interesting enough, a rainstorm hit that night. Yeah. And so you couldn't tell that they had done any digging there. Yeah. And then the next day, the guys came working. Like, they were up there working, not knowing that the prophets buried right beneath their feet. Yeah. They're walking right over the top of the...
I have this a little personal thing, and that is that some years ago, back in 2013, I think it was, I had the opportunity to work with Paul DeBarth, who is the archaeological main guy for the Community of Christ, and I got this shirt from the deal. This is the Joseph Smith Sr. and Lucy Mack Smith home. So where the mansion house was, and between the mansion house and the place where Emma had the bodies buried in the what do they call it?
Nauvoo. Well, it was right there. It was the Nauvoo Hotel.
The Nauvoo Hotel. Yeah, the Nauvoo Hotel. Now there's a Nauvoo motel. Don't get that confused with the.
Yeah, no, that's different.
that's
where I'm staying when I go there.
So, but they had that. But in between there was the Joseph Smith Senior's home, and I actually had the opportunity for about 3 days to work on the front stoop.
Well, and then on the opposite side of the street,
literally right across the street,
right across the street, Joseph only lived in the mansion house the last 9 months of his life.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and Joseph ran it as a hotel.
Yeah,
but Joseph wasn't a very good businessman. That wasn't his calling. So it's like, you can stay for free. Oh, you don't have any money? You can stay for free. Okay. You don't run a business that way, right? But so anyway, so everybody was doing that with him, and finally he had to sell it off and rent off. The part of the hotel of the mansion house is not there today. Yeah. I'm hoping the church rebuilds it now that they own it.
Yeah.
But a tree fell on it in the 1880s, and they never rebuilt it. But all the foundation's still in there.
Yep.
So all you have is the original building. But anyway, directly across from the Nauvoo house is where Joseph lived. That's called the homestead.
The original log cabin. And also then it's kind of like the frame house again.
That's the part that Joseph Smith III, his son, added on later. Because he lived there for a while. But anyway.
So those were there at that point in time.
They were there, yeah. So Joseph laid there now. He laid there clear till the fall. Yeah. So he was buried there for several months, okay? Yeah. Underneath this. Guys were constructing above it, had no idea that Joseph's and Hyram were buried.
But they were getting to the point where they're going to find out.
Yeah. So, but what did they do with the pine boxes after they took the oak out?
That's the other thing I was going to mention.
They put bags of sand in it to weigh up about the weight of a body, and that's what they took to the funeral was the bags of sand. So if anybody, and by the way, they found out that men did try to dig it up.
Yeah.
The next day they could see that somebody attempted to. All they were going to find is a couple of money bags with sand in it. They would have got all the way done. But smart move.
Must have been a heck of a disappointment.
Smart.
But now I understand though that the pine boxes at least a couple of those planks. Emma took a couple of those planks, and she had those. Now, so we have bodily materials had leaked onto these pine boards. And she took a couple of these planks and had somebody actually take them down and have them cut up. And she gave each one of Joseph Smith's bodyguards, Joseph Bates Noble being one of them,
Correct.
gave them each what they call the casket stick. Later on, several of them took those casket sticks and had them and turned on a lathe and made into like a cane. So they call them casket canes.
Right.
And Joseph Bates Noble again had one of those when
Yep.
I was working with Don Carlos Smith, who was the guy that
Loved Don Carlos
yeah,
Smith.
yeah, and he had what was thought to be the Nauvoo Legion, sort of Joseph Smith.
Yeah, he wrote a book called Keeper of the Prophet's
Yes,
Sword.
yes. And a bunch of really interesting stuff there. But the bottom line is that the Noble family got one of the casket sticks, and also along with that was given a small little locket of hair of both Joseph
and a lot of those
Hyram.
locket of hairs. I know it's Wilford Woodruff's up at the Pioneer Museum in Salt Lake, the Sons of the Utah Pioneers.
Yeah.
Or is it the daughters
The
of
daughters
the
of
Utah
Utah
Pioneers?
Pioneers. Yeah.
So you'll notice that there's hair wound into the top of the handle
of the
that's
cane.
still there.
Yeah.
The cane, yeah.
But they were just given a little locket with a little string tied with a little probably about this long.
Right.
Little piece of that.
So are we allowed to talk about, or nobody knows where you live, so don't worry about
that's where I live.
Trust me, folks, this is a hard place to find.
Don Carlos Smith he worked with the Noble family with that sword project, and as a kind of a gift, they gave him several of the hairs that were actually from Joseph and Hyram.
Yeah.
And
you happen to have.
And he
some of those.
Gave me this. So this is actually Joseph Smith. This is a little baggie here, and there's like 3 hairs in there. They're very, very fine.
Yeah, you can hold them up there.
But he was kind of a sandy blonde color, from what I understand, and anyway. But there's I think 2 or 3 of Joseph Smith's hairs there.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then these cannot be confused here. So get this big, the right,
and some of Hiram's
right
you had
thing
too,
here.
huh?
And then also one of a couple some hair.
Well, that's one of the ways that
this is Hiram's hair.
The spouses would save. And this is another story.
Which is interesting.
We need to get
DNA analysis.
So when did Emma?
Yeah.
Snip. I can tell you that too in a minute. If we can, this might lead us right in.
That first night was after they did the masks.
So
right?
No, actually it was later.
Was it? Okay.
Okay. So it was later.
We'll find out more about these.
So this is what now.
That
that's possible. It could have that she could have taken some of the hair off.
Yeah, before.
But the main story where people actually saw her cutting the hair off.
Yeah.
So this is several months later when she decided to. This is after Brigham Young and her were fighting about where Joseph had a tomb. Yes. He built it for himself. It's been dug up in Nauvoo now, and you can visit it. It's a museum. We can go into that story.
Yeah. Brian Christensen now has an awesome tour. If you go to Nauvoo, you gotta go.
Oh, and I can tell you, folks, I lived in Nauvoo for 6 years. Cool. Me and Joseph, I knew Joseph Johnston and myself. We knew where this tomb. We knew where it was.
Matt Kennedy,
but you can't say much
yeah.
anyway. So a new guy, Matt Kennedy, moves away. A new guy buys it from St. George, a millionaire from St. George. Mr. Anderson. And he says, well, so what? I don't care. I own it. I'm going to dig. By the way, half of it's underneath the city street, Mulholland Street. We're going to dig it up. Yeah. Oh, they found it's for sure the tomb.
Yeah.
Because William Weeks had made an architectural drawing when he was doing the temple. He made the same one for the tomb, and it matches. It's the tomb. Folks, it's the tomb.
And there's the well.
Yeah, and he's got the little well that's there that is on William Weeks' plan. So it's all there. You need to go visit. If you visit Nauvoo, you need to go take the time and go visit Joseph Johnston. He'll tell you the story, walk you through the tomb.
Say hi to Brian for us when you do.
What?
And say hi to Brian Christensen for us when.
Oh, Brian, yeah. Well, I've never met Brian to this day.
Really?
No.
He personally took me and some of my tour members and so forth.
But I know your best friend, Nate Christensen, because he's my friend in Manti. He works for Zions Bank. Anyway, he's a great guy. So he's the guy that walked down with you there. But anyway, so yes, I'll have to meet you someday. I'm really excited about that.
Tour.
But anyway, And Joseph Johnson, I'm really happy to meet you again because I knew you really well when we were in Nauvoo, and I understand you're the tour guide now for the tomb. So I'm coming to see you in a
There you
few
go.
months
There you
or a
go.
few weeks. Anyway, so here's what happened. So a few months later,
So about 8 or 9 months now, the
yeah,
bodies have
and now
been
Brigham Young
deteriorating
wants to make sure that Joseph is buried in the tomb because that was his request. Not a good idea because men can still find him there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So Emma says, "No, this is my husband. He's being buried on my property."
Yeah.
And there was even disputes about the mansion house falling into Brigham Young's hands.
Yeah.
So she says, "Yeah, but I own the homestead across the street."
Yeah.
So she had late at night, and the
Couple
problem is
guys.
she
Do we
got
know who the guys were?
yes. I mean we
Yeah.
have the names of some of them.
Yeah.
Again, was the black guy that I told you
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
I can't tell you exactly who they were. I can't remember the name, so don't quote me on this one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Emma was late at night, and the problem that developed a rift between her and Hyram's wife, Mary Fielding, is because she didn't tell Mary Fielding she was going to do it.
Mhm.
It was that private. So she's out there.
Yeah.
Mary Fielding found out, though, during the night. She had an unsettling feeling, and she got up and found the group doing it. So
Wow.
anyway, they
I
had
did not know that.
yeah. So anyway, they and this comes out of Emma's memoirs. But anyway, so they moved the bodies from
Literally just across the street.
across the street to
Yeah.
the homestead,
What's
the
that
old
main, what's the
homestead.
main street that goes up and down? The main drag that goes past Brownings and
Yeah, well, there's River Road
so
that
forth.
goes along the river, and then there's the main street that
Yeah, I
goes.
can't
So
remember what
it's a
that's-
cross between.
It's like
So
Bainey Street or no?
yeah, well, that's a little different
yeah, that's a
location.
different one.
So you have River Road and then the main street. They run
Yeah.
like this. In fact, Main Street in Nauvoo, when Joseph first moved there, he wanted to dig up the whole thing and have a ship come right through
The middle of
the
town.
middle of town. But it was too. He got realizing all the stone under there. He said, "No,
It's like,
it's never going to happen."
No, that's a
Okay.
limestone shelf.
Yeah,
that's
so it's
along
not
there,
going to
which is-
happen.
which
That's
is why
another
that's
story.
the river comes around that bend.
Yeah,
is
it comes
because of
around the bend.
limestone
Anyway, so
Yeah.
what she did is she had the bodies conveyed across the street,
Yeah.
but she didn't. There's a little tiny, what they called the bee house.
Yep.
Little
like
bee
a
house. It was
little-
just a little 5 feet by
not
5
even
foot
a
square.
shed. I mean,
Yeah.
really, but you could barely put a lawnmower in it.
Fairly small. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And they dug up the floor, and they buried him there.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they put the stone back over the top to cover him, the stone, and so nobody knew.
And didn't they do something about moving the dirt somewhere else so that it wouldn't look like they're
Yeah,
getting
they.
dirt moved
I
and
mean,
so
they
forth?
made
They
all
were
kinds
trying
of
to keep
really
this
keep it
on the
under
down
tight.
low. Yeah.
So he was buried under that spring house,
Yeah.
clear until 1928.
Yeah. That's where this
Long
comes in.
time. Yeah. So go ahead, Rod. Tell them a little bit about this.
Is the Still Side by Side, Final Burial of the Prophet Joseph Smith and Hyram by Barbara Hans Bernauer. This is actually was published by the Community of Christ. Mark Scherer, church historian.
It's it's an awesome publication.
I don't think you can even get these anymore.
Yeah, I have a copy of those. Yeah.
But
I have to mention this guy's name, Estel Neff.
yes,
He's a direct descendant of Joseph Smith. He used to come and sit in my chiropractic office that I had there, and he had long hair, could look like Porter Rockwell when he was 80, right?
Yeah.
But we'd sit and have just chats. And one day he says, "I want you to have one of these." So he gave me one of those books.
Well, I got this in the Red Brick store.
Yeah.
And one of my tours and so forth. But because there's a lot of scuttlebutt about, well, where's Joseph really? Are they really there? Did they hide him? Did they put him somewhere else? Were they in this tomb thing?
Well, there's even stories that Brigham Young carried him back to Salt Lake.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, what was going on is that the only account was apparently from Emma's diary.
She knew where they were buried,
and she actually in her diary said, it's this many steps from the back porch of or I guess it's the front porch. I'm not sure if it's I think it's
and
the
you know
back
what?
porch,
She
the
never even told
door.
her kids.
Yeah, Joseph Smith III didn't even.
He didn't have no idea when he became president of the Community of Christ. He said, "Where's your dad buried?" He says, "I don't have any idea." But his son that was born, David Hyram, that was born 9 months. Emma was pregnant.
Yeah, at the time of the martyrdom.
Yeah, at the time of the martyrdom. When he was born, he was a beautiful poem writer. He wrote poems and everything.
Yeah.
One of the poems he wrote, which everybody needs to go read this poem. It's beautiful. It's called "The Unknown Grave."
Oh wow!
The Unknown Grave, written by David Hyram, and Out in the back is an unknown grave, and it's just beautiful.
Oh
You
wow.
need to see it. You need to read it.
Yeah.
And everybody should. David Hyram was his son was an amazing, he could play instruments, a beautiful piano player. He had a beautiful voice. When he came to Salt Lake, do you know that people, David Hyram came as a missionary to Salt Lake to convert people to the reorganized church? And when he was out here in Utah, the person that came with him, Joseph Smith III, nobody wanted to listen to him.
Don't want to
But
hear.
when they want to,
David.
yeah, but you should hear, he would sing songs, play on the piano. It's like, yeah, I think we'll join the church. I mean, he had such a beautiful voice. Anyway,
so basically, what all that they really knew is that there had been at some point in time this bee house or this spring house
yep,
that was outside, and it was so many paces from the front door to the south and to a little bit to the west.
yep. That's all we knew.
So many paces.
And that's why Emma was buried
Yeah.
so many paces.
Yeah.
She was basically kind of giving away Joseph's,
Because
but nobody knew. I want to be buried right there.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where you can see the old pictures of Joseph Smith III standing on his mother's,
yeah,
stone there. It's not there anymore. They've moved that up too.
Yeah.
But
anyway, so the book basically outlines what exactly happened. But there was a particular year, the spring of 1920, floodwaters basically.
Well, actually,
high water time frame. The dam. I don't know if the dam was in there.
Let me tell you what.
Yeah,
I do know this.
Yeah.
So the dam was built in 1913.
Yeah. So the dam was there.
1913, because we still have pictures of the island out in the middle that Joseph would often hide out on the island. Wasn't that smart of Joseph to do that? Because guess what? Nobody from Iowa could arrest him because they didn't own the island. Nobody from Illinois could arrest him because they didn't own the island. So he would go. It was no man's land. It's a great place.
But that island disappeared when they put the dam up. And it raised the river up by 19 feet, 20 feet?
Yeah, almost 20 feet.
Yeah.
And I have pictures of it, of the mansion house and everything there with it. You can look it up. Before the dam was built. Yeah. So in 1913 they built the dam, and it started to ruin. There was all kinds of lawsuits. It started to ruin people's backyards and farmland and stuff.
Up and up and up.
So it was up and up and up and up. They had to do that to bury the rapids. So the Lee story we told you about earlier, they had to bury the rapids. So now the boats that come down, they know exactly where to go. It's high enough to where they're going over the rapids. They don't have to worry about the island's gone. It's all buried.
Yep.
So anyway, so it started creeping up a little by little. So the first thing they did is, there's bodies buried here. So the Community of Christ, back then the Reorganized Church, 1918. Yeah. By 1918, the water was literally coming up on the homestead property. Yeah. They thought, we know they're buried there somewhere.
Which is, by the way, right next to the red brick store. And it was also encroaching on that.
Red brick store, we were talking like 3 feet. And
today, it had a basement in it that could have.
And I've been back. I lived in Nauvoo for 6 years, and 1 year it flooded. Yeah. Believe it or not, I was actually in my shorts. Had my garments on, but I was in my shorts. I was down on the end of part of the street that the Mormons crossed over. Yeah. And I was swimming on the road. Yeah. The road was beneath me, and it was deep enough for my waist. So it still happens. It still floods.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, but anyway, so the Reorganized Church hired a guy by the name of William Hands. I think that was his name. William. And this book tells the whole story. You need to get a copy of this.
It's awesome. Yeah.
So they hired William O. Hands.
I don't think you can get this book anymore. I don't think
and it shows all the excavations. So William Hands said, okay, what we're going to do is we are going to trench for the next. They had a prayer and everything. Please help us to find these bodies.
Guys are 6 feet tall. So
we got to find them.
6 foot grid.
So they were doing all of these trenching, and they trenched for a solid week and could not. There's a picture of some of the flooding.
You can see some of the flooding there, right there. Anyway,
so they trenched.
In fact, this is Hands. It's not.
Yeah, you have a picture.
Hans like Hans Anderson.
This is
Hands.
You have a picture of him there.
Yes.
So there's a picture of him there in 1928.
There. Yeah.
So they didn't. The problem is they didn't tell the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints out in Salt Lake what they were doing, and that made. And at the time it was Joseph F. Smith, and they didn't. That didn't go well with the church. But anyway, so they trenched it all out.
This is in December, I think, or was it January?
It was January. It was cold.
December
January.
30th,
I think it was
1927. The meeting was held. Okay. that they were going to do this. But yeah, you're right. It's in January is when they actually did.
Yeah,
But they had this meeting and
it
said,
was in
we
January.
have got it. There's a high probability that this keeps coming up. It's going to basically wash out
The bodies.
the bodies, and we don't know for sure where they are.
So let's trench and find them.
We got to find them.
So that's what they did.
So that's so they went after it basically. Let's see, what was the
They
date
had a
here?
prayer. They finally had a fast and a
They
prayer.
had
And
a church-wide
church,
fast, the Community of
yes,
Christ, basically, which was the reorganized church at the time.
right. And below and behold,
And then
right after that, they found them.
yeah, I got to read you this little part here.
And they weren't far from Emma's, where Emma's buried.
Hands, let's see, standing on the slope of the homestead. He can only see the cemetery fence. Anyway, let me see if there's I thought I had this underlined here. The part that Friday the 13th proved to be a lucky day instead of a bad day. And Friday
Don't believe
the 13th.
those omens.
But anyway, after four fruitless days of trenching, the crew had returned uphill to the area near the homestead. Workers excavated around the Emma grave marker, hoping to find the martyrs. But before noon, we became somewhat excited when the box and coffin and then a skeleton was found. It was then that was Emma's. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Careful investigation proved it was the woman's remains, a hair comb similar to that worn by women, and a silk dress in good state of preservation. Later, anyway, so they found
And they have
found
pieces
Emma.
of her dress back there in the
Yes, they do.
museum. I don't know if it's there anymore, but
So then by the evening on Friday the 13th, the riverside of the homestead was pockmarked with holes, trenches, and boring sites with no evidence of a grave of the two brothers. Saturday night the 14th, Hans wrote the brethren of the presiding bishopric to report in detail. He was getting discouraged for several reasons. Basically, it got cold.
well, yeah,
It started getting
January.
freezing cold.
I
The
can
ground was frozen.
I can
The
tell you,
guys were
January.
freezing.
I've given talks. I've given talks about the martyrdom in January outside
Yeah.
on the doorstep of Brigham Young's house, 20 degrees below zero.
Yeah, and it's
So,
and it's a different
it's
kind
ugly.
of cold than we have
Yeah,
here
it's
in
a
Utah.
humid cold that
It's
goes
a-
right through you.
man,
It
it's
doesn't
just-
matter how many
it's-
jackets you're on, you're going to feel it.
It's just
Yeah.
miserable. Yeah, so these guys were out there digging, and the water's rising. They're like, oh my gosh, we are in trouble. It says Hans had exhausted all the sources at hand in the customary style, turned to God for help. The Sunday services of the LDS Nauvoo were almost devoted entirely to asking for God's help that they might direct their work to a successful conclusion.
Yeah.
I love their anyway. So they go on to basically
They met
say,
right. I think they met right, and they had a good reason. They were worried about the
Yep.
flooding. So
So the digging commenced that morning with a new purpose. So this was January the 16th.
yeah,
Okay, Brother Hans, I don't know why I say it, but I feel that these bodies are right in the immediate vicinity. This is right after they had the fast. So Hans came out.
yeah.
They said they described a circle indicating a spot that proved to be directly over the bodies of the martyrs. The digging commenced that morning with a new purpose. About 10 o'clock, they came to a foundation wall. Then they found the brick floor at about 3.5 feet below the surface, removing
Which
the
was
brick.
the old beehive house.
We stuck what looked like a wooden box. It was badly rotted, being practically nothing more than powder. For the three men digging, the tension and excitement mounted while they were last to find were they at last to find the object of their search. Carefully proceeding, they came to a large flat stone about 18 inches in diameter. Gently lifting this,
Over the
along
top
with
of their
some other
heads.
smaller stones, they saw a skull.
Yeah.
It was lying in such a position the rocks had completely protected the head from what otherwise might have been complete destruction. The facial bones were complete in a good state of preservation. Hans wrote, as I cleared away the sand and gravel very carefully from around the skull, I found the hole where the bullet had gone through so clearly defined as to make it identification positive and complete. It was Hyram.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So
And then they found Joseph.
this is I think this is the part that disturbed Joseph F. Smith and the people in Salt Lake. Number one, they weren't told they were doing it.
Yeah.
So I
It
mean,
was kind of an
out of
emergency
courtesy, they
thing.
probably should have.
I mean, there was phones
Yeah,
and so forth. I mean, they
but,
could have called.
But the real part that kind of twisted the saints' stomachs a little bit is when they took all of the bones and they walked them over to the mansion house, and they put them on a table, and then they took photographs of all of it, every angle, of all the skulls, and that's in this book. You can see the
Yeah, you
skulls
can
in the
actually
book
see it.
here.
Yeah.
And anybody can. I know Shannon Tracy. I think it's Shannon Tracy's, and I have his book.
Actually, you know that
He has
the skull
all
pictures
these
are not
pictures.
in this book.
Okay, they're in Shannon Tracy. I
Yeah,
think
they're in Shannon
Shannon
Tracy's
Tracy.
book.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, I think
Yeah.
I have your book that has all the.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who did all of the Shannon Tracy.
Yep.
got all those pictures from the
Community of Christ. Yeah.
from the Community of Christ to do that. But anyway,
Yeah.
so anyway, I have all those pictures. Some people says, I actually did myself and Susan Easton Black.
Did kind of a forensics
We
thing.
did I did one in front of all the 300 missionaries, and I had all of the skulls up. I had the skulls up on the pictures, and I actually got in a little trouble for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was called in by the mission president.
Actually,
And he said,
those pictures are
he says
actually
you're really
online. You can actually
yeah, you can see
do
him
a
online
Google
now. He says
search.
you're really pretty. It's pretty. You gave a great presentation, but you know what? Sometimes it's not always good to show those kinds of things. And I was chastised
Really?
for that. I just told
What
him. I
about
said,
Susan Easton Black? She's awesome.
oh yeah, myself and her were very good friends. Her home was very near mine, and we could. Susan Black is one of the best and smartest people about
Historians as well.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything Nauvoo. Yeah, go talk to Susan Black.
Yeah.
She's a terrific and very fun lady to be around too. She's really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We had dinner over at her house. All
Okay,
the
so the last couple of pictures here basically are the pictures of the three bodies prior to
where they
that.
buried them now. Yeah. So now they're buried here together. Now there's a little controversy I got to tell you, but I'm not going to be making anybody upset. But this is the truth, and maybe we can end here.
Yeah.
This is the truth. But underneath of Joseph's stone is when they buried him in the wrong place. So they buried him, but under the headstones. So underneath Joseph's headstone is Hyram, and underneath Hiram's headstone is Joseph. So just so you know,
but Joseph and Emma are together.
And when I was doing tours out there, I would go along with the tours, and I would talk to the tour guide, and they'd say, "Yeah, we already know that, but please don't bring it up." I didn't bring it up.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
But every year there on the 27th of June, and I'll be out there this year. We have a nice little commemoration out there at where they're buried. So where they're buried today is called the Joseph Smith Cemetery. It's still the piece that the Community of Christ did not sell to the church.
That's right.
The cemetery is still owned by the Community of Christ.
My understanding, the cemetery itself is not necessarily owned by the Community of Christ, but it's actually there's an endowment or something for the Smith family, and they have part of it as well.
But I know the LDS Church, when they acquired all of these things, they did not acquire the cemetery.
No,
because Joseph Smith's father and mother are buried there too. And
okay, do you know the special thing about the cemetery?
I don't know. Tell me. I don't know anything special about the cemetery.
Okay, because if you look at the red brick store from the west side, you can actually see it's on an elevated thing.
Correct.
It's
and the cemetery's on an elevated.
Yeah, it's basically it's a mound.
Oh, I did not know this part.
It is actually that you can see actually it's got the edges.
So my mounds. Probably ought to tell people what a mound.
It's like a Native American.
Yeah, where Native American.
Kind of like the big mound that was there. It was this is where the Book of Mormon stuff ties in. So if anybody's wondering why are we talking about Joseph Smith, not Book of Mormon stuff on the Book of Mormon channel thing, this is Book of Mormon stuff. This is the fascinating thing. So Paul DeBarth, when I was working with him on the I Dig Nauvoo project, which is the Joseph Smith Senior.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. I remember. I was there when they were doing that.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I spent about 3 days.
They had people from BY, all kinds of people that were there digging it up. It's where the parking lot is.
Exactly. There's a parking lot.
Yeah,
in fact,
exactly.
In fact, one morning we came to the dig, and there was a one of the big box turtles had crawled into the dig and couldn't get back out. Because of the vertical
right
walls
off the river.
Off the river. And so
goodness.
we had to go get the turtle and take him back to the river. Anyway, it was fun. But bottom line is that so he was telling me when I was working with him and so forth how just a couple of years before that the Community of Christ was putting a new electrical service into the red brick store. And there's a sidewalk that goes between the homestead and the red brick store that goes right along kind of just a park-like area, just a flat, grassy area.
I know exactly where you're talking. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So they got a big trencher out there, and they started trenching, and they're going along the side of the sidewalk apparently to do this trench, and all of a sudden bones start flying up out of the ground, and they looked at them and they're human bones. And like, well, okay, hold on. Okay, we're digging through some burials here. And so they stopped digging and they did what they call a salvage dig. Basically, they just came in with shovels and, instead of all the archaeological protocols and everything where they mark everything off and do all that, they basically just got, people who were kind of know what they're doing and kind of just quickly dig out so they can, finish doing the trenching and so forth. They found several burials, but not only that, they found artifacts. They found a couple of pipes and some other things. These are the little pipes that
Wow.
they're indicative of the
See,
Hopewell
I
mound
was
builder
there
people.
taking the tours when they were doing this, and I stopped and talked about it for a minute, but they didn't give me much information. But now this brings the story back home a
So
little
this
bit.
is
Why?
fascinating because they found there's at least 25 burials between the red brick store and the Smith family cemetery.
Yeah.
They're all ancient Native
Indians.
American,
Wow. Okay.
but not just Indians. These are the Hopewell mound builder people that in our Book of Mormon stuff, we are saying they're the
Oh,
Nephites.
and it crosses right over into Joseph Smith's history time.
It
Wow.
turns
Well,
out
I
that
knew a
Joseph
lady
and
too that
Emma,
had another mound up behind her house. This is
there's a bunch of
on
them,
the river. There was huge.
Curleys,
Yeah, she wouldn't
the
even let me
Curley
walk.
family.
She had it staked off. She wouldn't let me walk over it.
There's a dozen
Yeah.
mounds up there. They've
Yeah.
had Eagle Scout things,
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
helping maintain
Yeah.
those mounds and so forth.
Yeah.
So we know they were all over that area. But bottom line is, you got Joseph and Emma and Hyram are buried in the one tomb. You got Joseph Smith Sr. and Lucy Mack,
Yeah.
and a whole bunch of other Smith family are all right there.
Including Joseph Smith III's
Yeah.
wife and family. All
It
there
turns out that the Smith family cemetery is literally
on a mount.
in a Native American,
Well, how fitting is
in
that?
a Nephite. I'm gonna say it. It's a Nephite cemetery on the banks of the River Sidon, and I don't know who's going to be there on the resurrection morning, but I'm guessing there's going to be people. We're going to certainly know who Joseph and Hyram and so forth, right? And Emma, but I think there's going to be people
That could be.
coming
I'd
up.
like
That's
to. I'd
gonna
like to
be,
be there.
wouldn't that be a
I'm
great place
afraid I
to
won't
be?
be, but
On resurrection morning to go
Yeah.
and see to see who's there, because I think that's just fascinating that Joseph. I think it's a fitting place for what Joseph did.
yeah, that's a
for-
background story. I'm hearing this for the first time. So I did not know. I
There
did
you
not
go,
know
brother.
this. So there's your
you
there's
can,
your
you can
story.
talk to Paul DeBarth. We actually
Oh, man.
interviewed him and it was on Hidden in the Heartland show that Kels Goodman and did, and it's just awesome. But yeah, but that I wanted to give you a little surprise there, since you're the ultimate.
Well, and I think we wanted
historian
to. Is it?
So
he's
there's-
kind of giving me the motion time
here. Yeah,
over there for
we got
time's
kind
up.
of.
Do we want to
wrap it
maybe
up
just
here.
kind of bear our testimonies about?
I think only one other thing, and then we were going to basically just share a little bit of our feelings about Joseph Smith as a prophet of God, and basically, so President Holland gave a most amazing talk in a I can't remember
in
how
general
long ago. It was
conference.
a general conference
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
They actually play that if you go to the Carthage Visitor Center today.
Oh, they play that one now instead
They
of
play
the
that,
old,
the other one.
the old when he was a
Yeah.
young boy going. Oh,
Yes.
okay, yeah.
And they
Okay.
play that, and it is the most powerful. Every time I go there, and I've been there dozens of times.
Is this
with
the one where
groups.
in conference he held up Hiram's Book of Mormon about
He
him
talks about the two
saying goodbye
testators.
in the Book of Ether, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and with these
He
two
turned the
men,
page down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
with these two men, knowing that they're going to their graves, why would they not deny it? If this book was not
Yeah. If
true?
this was the time to save your life, this is it.
This is the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
When Joseph Smith and his brother Hyram started for Carthage to face what they knew would be an imminent martyrdom, Hyram read these words of comfort to the heart of his brother. Thou hast been faithful. Wherefore thou shalt be made strong, even unto the sitting down in the place with which I have prepared in the mansions of my Father. A few short verses from the 12th chapter of Ether in the Book of Mormon. Before closing the book, Hyram turned down the corner of the page from which he had read, marking it as part of the everlasting testimony for which these two brothers were about to die. I hold in my hand that book, the very copy from which Hyram read, the same corner of the page turned down still visible. Later, when actually incarcerated in the jail, Joseph the prophet bore a powerful testimony of the divine authenticity of the Book of Mormon. Shortly thereafter, pistol and ball would take the lives of these two testators. In this, their greatest and last hour of need, I ask you, would these men blaspheme before God by continuing to fix their lives, their honor, and their own search for eternal salvation on a book, and by implication, a church and a ministry they had fictitiously created out of whole cloth? Never mind that their wives are about to be widows and their children fatherless. Never mind that their little band of followers will yet be houseless, homeless, and friendless, and that their children will leave footprints of blood across frozen rivers and an untamed prairie floor. Never mind that legions will die and other legions live, declaring in the four quarters of this earth that they know the Book of Mormon and the church which it espouses it to be true. Disregard all of that and tell me whether in this hour of death these two men would enter the presence of their eternal judge, quoting from and finding solace in a book which, if not the very word of God, would brand them as impostors and charlatans until the end of time. They would not do that. They were willing to die rather than deny the divine origin and the eternal truthfulness of the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon is true and was given to bring happiness and hope to the faithful in the travail of the last days. Brothers and sisters, God always provides safety for the soul, and with the Book of Mormon, He has again done that in our time. Remember this declaration by Jesus Himself: "Whoso treasureth up my word shall not be deceived, and in the last days neither your heart nor your faith will fail you. Of this I earnestly testify in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen."
That is such a powerful testimony.
It really is.
That they sealed their witness of the Book of Mormon, and the reestablishment, the restoration of the Church of Jesus Christ on this earth, and they sealed it with their blood. And these two men, just like I love what they named this right here, still side by side.
And you know what?
Hyram doesn't get much accolades,
No.
but I tell you what a brother that Joseph
And he was
had.
and look at this. Remember the story in the Book of Mormon about the older brothers of Nephi?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You have an example of two disobedient brothers who wouldn't listen to their younger brother. Here's the opposite story.
Yeah.
Hiram is older than Joseph Smith, but there's never a time where he did not support his younger brother.
Yeah. Even though
that's
Joseph
a testimony
Smith was
to Hiram.
all of the accolades and everything else, and
Hiram was a
kind of
man
in the
without
background.
guile.
But,
And you want another
he's
little?
got a special
listen to
place.
this one. Joseph Fielding Smith, in his book on Hiram, the first page, I have a copy of it at home. He says, "Do you know who was supposed to be with Joseph in the jail that day? Oliver Cowdery." Most people don't know this, but Oliver Cowdery, they'd been together through the priesthood, the Book of Mormon translation, the priesthood, Aaronic, Melchizedek. They'd all been together during the Kirtland Temple when they saw Moses, Elijah, all of that.
Yeah.
They'd all been together. And then he apostatized, Oliver Cowdery, in Missouri, so he never ended up in Nauvoo. So then his brother took his place as the assistant president of the church. So here's the part that breaks my heart. It really does break my heart. 3 hours before Joseph was martyred, he got a letter from Oliver Cowdery wanting to rejoin the church. How would you feel if you were, and this is in my book, I'm almost losing it right now. You can tell him. How would you feel if you were Joseph Smith 3 hours before your death and you're reading a letter from Oliver Cowdery? You've been waiting for him to come back for the last 5 years into the church, longer than that, 6, 7 years.
He was the assistant president of the
Yeah.
church,
and he lost his
his
place.
grip on the
And
iron
I
rod.
have
Yeah.
a feeling, and I've written this in my book, I have a feeling that day he knew Joseph was in jail,
Yeah.
and he gets a letter from John Smith, who lived out in Ramus, and brought it from Oliver Cowdery
Wow.
personally to Joseph Smith, and he read it in jail. We don't even have a copy of it today. I don't know. Nobody can find it, but it's all in their memoirs. And Joseph is finding out that Oliver Cowdery is looking to come back. That breaks my heart. But you know what? In the end, he's going, don't worry, Oliver. I have my brother here with me today. You know?
Yeah.
And I told my brother that he needed to get out and leave so that he could lead the church, but he wouldn't leave me.
Yeah.
What a testimony to Hyram Smith.
Yeah.
We don't talk
he's
about
amazing.
Hyram enough.
Yeah.
We don't talk about Hyram enough.
I just think of some of the experiences that Joseph's had. You know, I mean, in the translation processes, he's going through this, and he's reading about that we're descendants of Joseph of Egypt and so forth, and there will be this Joseph in the latter days, and then he's going to have a son whose name is Joseph.
How would you like to be reading that about
imagine
yourself?
You're looking at these 2,000-year-old
Manuscript.
plates,
Yeah.
and it has stuff that has
You in it.
You.
I'm sure can you imagine what Oliver's doing is like, Joseph,
Yeah.
you're him. But don't talk about it. I don't want
when you think of the accomplishments of the prophet Joseph Smith, I mean, I really, my very favorite saying of all of Joseph Smith's is when he, after the first vision, he says, I knew it, and I knew that God knew it, and I could not deny it. He didn't say I believed in it.
And
he said I knew it.
And look at the trials he went through.
I think this
he
is
had
what
plenty
gave
of
him the
opportunities
strength.
to strike out.
Yeah.
And Joseph held firm.
But yeah, can you imagine though?
And I'll tell you why. I take tours. I took over 100 tours to Carthage. And I'd probably taken 20, 30, maybe 40 tours out there. Mm-hmm. Here's all the details, whether you really want to know. Most people couldn't remember when they left.
Right.
And that's why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
But I got on one tour, and I'm going to tell this. It's kind of personal to me, but I'm going to tell it here because it's fitting. It's the last. They just come out of the jail. We're done with the tour, and somebody in my bus asked me. They says, we know that Joseph gave his life, but why really did he come to Carthage? Did he do it just to save Nauvoo? I said no. I says, I've never said this out in the open, but I'm going to bear my testimony here, and I'll do it here today again. I says, I felt like when I was doing these tours, Joseph said, yeah, that's all great information, but tell him why I came here. Right? And it all went back to the temple for me, because I was also serving under President Condé at the time, who was Spencer Condé was the temple president, and I was best friends with Spencer Condé, working in the temple, me and my wife. And we had a couple wonderful stories with him. And he was a jokester. He was a funny man.
Yeah. We got a great piano player.
We got in the elevator one day, and he says, brother, he looked at my tag, and he says, oh, Brother Dunn, you're new. He says, do you know why we wear white coats in the temple? And I said, I gave him the primary story. Well, it's purity, and we all want to look the same. He says, no. He says, it's to hide our dandruff, but don't worry about it. Me and you don't have to worry about it, because we were both bald. Oh, I never forget that to this very day. That's just so funny. But anyway.
Is Spencer Condé, is he still?
He's still alive. He lives down by the Jordan River Temple in West Jordan.
Yeah, I got to see him at SVU one time.
Yeah, he's great.
Stayed
I understand he's still around. So
he's just a very, very enjoyable.
But anyway, I went out there and I said, look, I'll tell you the reason. I says, Joseph he was a temple builder, the first one. I says, he built the Curlin Temple. They had to leave. They were forced out. When they finally got to Nauvoo, this is why it broke us. This takes us back to this picture.
Yeah.
This is why it broke his heart. He really, one thing he wanted to see more than
this
anything,
through.
he wanted
Yeah.
to see it finished.
Yeah.
That's why I like this one, because
Yeah.
it's only partly finished, and it has him looking over there, right? This is a beautiful
like very
painting.
longing.
Because
looking.
he wanted to see it finished, but he realized that he wasn't going to see it finished. And guess where the very first endowments
Kinda like
were given?
Moses.
The very first endowments for the dead,
Yeah.
not for the dead, for the living. The very first endowments for the living were given in the Nauvoo
Yeah.
tomb.
Wasn't
For
correct.
the dead, it was St. George. They had to
Yeah.
wait another 40 years. But anyway, here's what I believe. I believe, and I kind of feel like Joseph. I didn't hear a voice. I didn't hear anybody. It's not one of those clandestine visions or anything.
Mhm.
I just felt in my heart, tell them really why I came out here. Yeah, I wanted to save Nauvoo, but why did I want to save Nauvoo? Because I wanted to, here's the answer. And this is what I think Joseph would want me to tell you today. I came out here to buy Brigham Young time to finish the Nauvoo temple. Because I knew the saints would never make it across the prairie if they didn't have the holy endowment. And people out there listening, if you haven't had a chance to recommend and get to the temple and receive your own endowment, you're missing out.
Yeah.
This has been President Nelson's message.
Yep.
This is why they're building hundreds of temples all over the world, because
Almost
we're trying to get the
400 now,
endowment
yeah.
to people before the second coming happens. And we're not that far away.
Yeah.
So Joseph knew his whole thing was build a temple, build a temple, build a temple, get to the temple, right?
Yeah.
He started giving the endowment in his red brick store in 1842. And unfortunately, and this also breaks my heart, William Law, the man who turned out traitor, was one of those men who received the endowment in 1842.
Yeah, one of the first ones.
And that's tough. But let me tell you, if Joseph was here today, I think he would say, you know what? Look at the effort I made to get these temples built. And now you have a president who's building them all over the world. Get to the temple. Get your endowment. Make those sacred covenants. It's the only thing that's saved, that got the saints across the prairie to Salt Lake. None of you would be here today if those saints hadn't waited. They waited. Brigham Young was ready to cross the river, and he looked back and he saw the date on the February the 4th. He looked back and he saw people, and he walked up to him and he says, hey, we'll build a temple in Salt Lake. Don't worry. We'll get it done. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he walked away and the people stayed in line.
Yeah.
So he walked back to the temple and spent the whole day getting those people. Guess what? One of those people was my great-great-grandfather. And my great-great-grandfather was Emma's school teacher. He taught all of Joseph Smith's kids. His name was Enoch Bartlett Tripp. And it goes through my maternal line.
Wow.
So it's not a Dunn name, but Enoch Bartlett Tripp knew. He was there the day Lucy died on her deathbed. She grabbed up my great-great-grandfather's arms and he says, I can now die in peace because I've seen somebody from the Rocky Mountains. That was my great-great-grandfather. So I have ties to Nauvoo. But more importantly, I have ties to the temple in Nauvoo because I worked there with my wife for 6 years. Yeah. And I know that that's what Joseph would want me to tell you today. Get to the temple. Yeah. So
I just wanted to thank you for sharing that. And I just wanted to share my a couple of thoughts about that. As I've done this research on the Book of Mormon and specifically wanted to know about what Joseph Smith knew about the Book of Mormon. You know, what did he give us any clues about where it happened? You know, and those kinds of things. And as I've studied his life, the more I studied the prophet Joseph Smith and his family, his wonderful wife, you know, and so forth.
And they give Emma a bad rap.
Yeah,
we shouldn't. Yeah, Emma paid a price for not coming. But guess what? You know, if Emma wouldn't have stayed, there'd be my tours wouldn't be going because there would be nowhere to visit.
Well, plus
thank you, Emma.
Plus she was taking care of their descendants, which now we have been blessed to have. I mean, just at our last event, we just had 2 of Joseph Smith's direct descendants. You know, when the first time we actually had the Howard Carlos Smith came out with the sword, we had Michael Kennedy.
Oh yeah, from Nevada, right?
Who
This
was
Nevada
who was
story.
the first of Joseph Smith's
He
descendants
received the priesthood.
to receive the priesthood and so
Yeah.
forth. And we've had Gracia Jones and so forth. And
Great. Talk about she has the right name, you know.
and
Grace,
David, yeah.
Grace Jones.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's
yeah.
all. Yeah, she is the one of the most
She
graceful
fell down a
people,
couple days ago. I'm like, oh, she's
people
gonna
I've
be
ever
okay.
met.
Yeah.
Yes, she's wonderful.
But David Denning is another one that, and he's kind of taking that. But we also have I've had Brian and his mom.
Oh,
she sings. It's
Kimberly
Smith.
Kimberly and Brian.
Yeah,
I'm good friends with Kimberly. She's
for
wonderful.
several years, they came and actually sang at our events and played the guitar and everything.
And her
It was
son
awesome.
looks.
Yeah.
He's got
like,
got the
whoa.
Joseph Smith going thing
He's
there.
got he's looking like him a lot. Yeah.
Terrific young man. Boy, what a voice.
He's got to be
has.
probably 24, 25 now.
And he actually went through. He was the first one in the Nauvoo temple to receive his endowment.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know that there has been a big effort to try to undermine the prophet Joseph Smith, his character. There's been even historians who've kind of said, the Smiths, and he was, he kind of dabbled in some of the black magic and that kind of stuff when he was a kid, and that kind of prepared him for
I know
his message. And I'm like,
I've
whoa,
I've heard all of that. Yeah.
But I basically I look forward to the day, if I ever have the privilege and opportunity of standing before Joseph Smith, and I want to be able to look him in the eyes and basically say, Joseph, I stood with you. I want to uphold your honor, uphold your character, your family. You are the prophet of this dispensation. I've never really thought too much about it, but I would hope that Hyram would be there too, because if we have that,
I'm actually afraid of that moment. I'm afraid Joseph's going to come up to me and say, well, that's quite a book you wrote, but you got a few things wrong. But thanks anyway. You did a good job bearing testimony about me. I can just picture that. I would hope that Joseph someday I'm able to meet him and just say, you know what?
Man, you look at the accomplishments.
I would just say to him, I don't know how you did it. I really don't.
I just want to reiterate that, next to Jesus Christ himself, no one has done more.
Well, that's right in our scriptures.
For the salvation of man than Joseph Smith did. And so, anybody who's going to be, undermining the character of Joseph Smith needs to be very careful.
Yes. And also I'll go on and add even more to that. Because I had people on my tours. Wow, wasn't his wife just nuts? I mean, I can't believe. I said, no.
Oh, Emma, you mean?
I says, you don't know.
How many kids, how many children did she bury?
I said, go back and read this little book called Judge Me, Dear Reader. I says, you'll feel different when you get finished with it. I just said, what a support. Yeah. What a support she was. No, do I blame her for not going west? Not at all. Not at all. Her husband was buried there. Her family was buried there. Her husband, her sons that were killed were buried there. Samuel, the third martyr, was buried there.
Parents.
I said, Lucy wouldn't have made it across the plains. She had arthritis that was horrible.
Yeah.
I says, and you know what? She ended up, just to show you her character, she ended up marrying a guy, marrying a guy who was not LDS, and raising an illegitimate child named Charlie from him.
Yeah, he has an affair, child.
And on her deathbed, the day she died, she had Charlie, and she had the woman that bore Charlie with her husband put their hands together and say, now would you please get married, you two? On her deathbed, the day she died, she did that.
I did not know
that
this
is a tribute to Emma. She was an elect lady at the end, so please don't judge her the way people do.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so listen, I want to just thank you, Craig, so much for coming and sharing this amazing. This is probably the deepest dive I think anybody will ever see about the martyrdom of Joseph Smith. Because even on your tours, I don't know how long you take on your tours, but
it's
you
3
only have a couple
hours.
hours.
It's 2.5 hour tour.
We've been about 4 hours or 5 hours.
And it's hopping and skipping from place to place. But hey, I'm going to plug my tour now. You can
That's right.
You can find it now. You can the web page. Yeah. I understand that in by the end of the week you'll be able to actually make appointments in the bus. But it's NauvooTours.com, and I saw it last night for the first time, and it's beautiful. Shane Kester is the designer, and he's made a beautiful, way beyond what I could do. Thank you, Shane.
Yeah, thank you, Shane.
He's done a beautiful job.
That's how you and I actually got.
Yeah, it's through Shane Kester. But Shane is a I couldn't have left the tour to anybody else but him.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
couldn't have trusted it to anybody else.
so the very first DVD set that I ever did was called the Book of Mormon Evidence. It's a 5 DVD set. We actually have just a few of these left as far as the whole set, but this number 2 is called
the DN. Oh yeah,
Joseph Smith Knew.
that's good.
And that's probably the final thing I'm just going to say, and that is what when after the first vision, I think he knew that there was something special. Kind of like I think Christ probably knew that there was something different about him.
Mm-hmm.
When he was
Well,
growing up as a kid.
I think Joseph Smith was, he's 14.
Yeah.
And I think that to Joseph Smith, it was like, wow, God really answers prayers. He was going out really not to find out. The first thing he was going to do is he wanted to know that his sins were forgiven.
Yeah.
He didn't go out and say,
How
you
many
know what, I'm
14-year-olds
disturbed.
do
Which church is the truth? That's not really. He found out.
Yeah.
Okay, your sins are forgiven, but Joseph, there's more. You don't ever ask the Lord and expect to just get a simple answer.
Yeah.
Okay, if I give you an answer, there's a big responsibility that comes behind it.
Yeah.
And Joseph had no idea what was coming down the line.
But I think at that point he realized that there's something different. But then when you're translating the Book of Mormon, you see your name in a book that's in this set of gold plates.
I think that's probably when it hit him.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because when you
I'm
take a look
play
at
a big part here.
even the temple, this is such a bodacious building project. When you consider this was one of the largest buildings in the whole Midwestern part of the United States. It was bigger than any building in Chicago.
And he built it a mile away from being outside the United States.
At the time. Yeah.
I know it's incomprehensible.
But the vision that he had, the vision of the Kirtland Temple, how big that one is. Anyway, long story short is I know we got to get this.
We're getting the wrap up signal.
But we're getting the wrap up signal. But the bottom line is that I just wanted to testify that Joseph Smith he's the real deal. Yeah. And the more we study and learn about his life, the more I think we're going to be grounded in the truth that the gospel of Jesus Christ has been restored through him as the prophet of this dispensation. And so I just want to reiterate that. And thank you again, Craig, for coming and being a part of this. If you're enjoying this kind of information and brand new stuff that you never heard before, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Then go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below here. You can go to our website at bookofmormonevidence.org.
Is that where you're going to find these podcasts?
That'll be on the YouTube channel under Book of Mormon Evidence YouTube channel. Okay. And then we'll probably also put on the streaming website, which he have over 1,700 presentations by 450 experts in every possible field you can think of. It's the largest repository of information and research ever assembled on the Book of Mormon, and it's all right there in our streaming website. So we are excited about learning more. Hopefully, we'll have you on again.
Yeah, I'd love to.
You'd be willing to come on?
Come and join me on the tour.
There we go.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
You're going to be in Nauvoo this year, or are you going to be out there for a couple of years?
I will be out there. I'm going to be doing it with Shane during the summer when pageant is going.
Yeah.
So I will be there first day of pageant, and that's when 40,000 people descend on the town, and I'd love to talk with you, even if you don't want to go on the tour. Love to talk with you. I'll be out on the streets there. And
Shane and his lovely wife and my wife had a really special experience together some years ago.
And one more thing. Hey, make sure you go see brand new. It's brand new this year. So it's kind of all the planets are lining up. Us doing the tour again, me and Shane. But this year, Brian Stutzman from Idaho, one of the guys who did the other podcast with me, he has bought a building on Mulholland Street, right next to where the Nauvoo Expositor Press used to be. How fitting. That's where we're going to launch the tours from. Okay. And it's called the Martyrdom Trail Museum, the Martyrdom Museum. Oh. And it's a museum just on the martyrdom. Beautiful store. And he's got his wife and him have an apartment they built upstairs, but they're going to be there all summer. And he's going to be there, and you're going to be able to walk through. You'll be able to see my marble death mask as soon as you come in the door. There's because I loaned all of that to him. Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's a beautiful place. So the Martyrdom Museum now, right on Main Street. So there you go, Brian. You're a good man.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good time, everybody, and God bless, and keep the faith.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. Okay.